I'm Barbara Peters. Welcome to another episode of the Criminal Calendar. We have a really interesting treat for you today. I, like you, am just now meeting author April Smith. Hi, April.
Hi, Barbara.
It's really nice of you to come back from LA after your first abortive attempt.
Well, it was worth it. I sat on that plane for 2 hours. It never took off, but I vowed I'd get here somehow, and here I am.
And you are. Did you still fly United?
No. I flew Southwest, which was a pleasure.
I have to say that the unkind in our audience that came for the canceled event assumed you were on America West.
Oh, really?
So they've had sort of a problem, so I was very careful to explain that it was really, United. But anyway, we're so glad that you could come back. And since you and I haven't really talked, I wondered if we could begin maybe by exploring your rather busy Hollywood life as a scriptwriter, which is obviously not only preceded but background to your books.
Well, I've been working in Hollywood for a long time, and I've had lots of jobs, lots of venues, always in drama. I've worked on episodic shows such as Lou Grant. I produced Cagney and Lacey, which really was my introduction to the world of crime writing. I did a lot of research for Cagney and Lacey before taking over the show, wrote around in New York with the cops, and in fact, a rather famous author who now we know very well here at the Poison Pen named Robert Crace was on staff. I hired him on staff at Cagney and Lacey, and we had a grand old time with the cops in New York, following them around 42nd Street for a couple of weeks. So I got my feet wet there, came back, put the show on the air, and then quit episodic TV to do movies of the week, mainly because I was having a family, and it's a very grueling weekly schedule. And I've done now about 7 TV movies. The most recent one was an adaptation I did of Anna Quinlan's novel, Black and Blue.
What a superb book.
Yes, a terrific book. For those who don't know it, it's about a New York City nurse who's married to a cop, again, the cop theme, who beats her up, and she escapes with their son, changes her identity completely, and moves to Florida, and of course, he pursues her. And for me, that was the drama in the book that I brought to the film, was the procedural, that we see the procedural of him tracking her down. It becomes a cat and mouse game.
It does, and if I recall right, her son was instrumental in it too, because, while she needed to escape, the child has ambivalent feelings about his father. And of course, which I don't want to say for fear of spoiling the book, there's a tremendously poignant ending, and not the one you necessarily expect from Anna. She's very good at particularly in One True Thing, which I thought was a truly blow-away book.
Yes, no, it's a beautifully written book, Black and Blue, totally internal. And the relationship between the mother and the son is incredibly poignant. And she really gets that conflict.
I think so too, and I think it's a real heartbreaker for unexpected reasons, perhaps, in the ending. She has a new book coming out this fall, and I have practically begged your publisher, grovel,
yeah.
To see if I could get Anna to come to Phoenix. I mean, she's not really a crime writer, but on the other hand, would you agree that her books are what one could call crime novels?
Well, they are thrillers.
Some of them, anyway.
Well, kind of. I mean, they have thriller aspects in the sense that they have plot. They move forward, and certainly in Black and Blue was closer to crime because our main character does commit a crime. It's a kidnapping.
Exactly, and One True Thing, in fact, is a suspicion of murder. I mean,
yes.
The whole question has to do with whether, when the mother who has cancer dies, did the daughter help her out,
right,
or whatever? And I thought that was, again, just an amazing. I liked the twist. It was great. When you say you were a producer, could you define for me a little more what I'm a Hollywood ignoramus, so I would love to know, what does a producer? I figured the scriptwriter part I can figure out from Bob, but what's a producer?
There are many different kinds of producers. There's money producers, who are generally called executive producers. They secure the financing, they deal with the studio and the network, and they oversee the bureaucratic organizational stuff as well as creatively. But then there are creative producers, which is really what I am. In television, often they are writers. They come from the ranks of writers. They bring a vision to the show, and they're skilled in dealing with people, dealing with writers and actors, and also you have to be organized. You oversee the whole look of the show, from the concept of the script to the colors that are used in the set. to the editing, to the music, and you really are responsible for the total package of what the viewer sees and experiences creatively.
Okay, so you're orchestrating the whole package. The director, more specifically, is what, doing the actual action?
Yeah.
He's responsible for the filming?
Right.
I've often thought these lines were a little blurred, or at least they're blurred in my mind.
Oh, they're not blurred on the set.
Not at all.
I'll tell you that.
What do you do when you have conflict? If you've got a costume, let's say a costume designer who wants one particular look, and maybe your vision is different, do you get to win?
Not always. It's a human business, and in movies, you often have to compromise, and you have to respect the artistry of the people you hire. They might know more than you about what a character should wear or look like, and often, I mean, when I hire people for the production crew, I want people that are creative and have vision and might argue with me from an informed point of view. That's good.
What about the script? Is it generally something that's put together before you come on board, or do you have much interplay with the scriptwriter as the producer?
Well, in episodic television, you are responsible for developing each script, each storyline. So you're there from day one, and either you write it, the staff writes it, or you hire a freelancer. And so you are involved every step of the way in that script. Often producers rewrite the script too. But I never did that. We all worked together as a group.
What about a movie, though, a longer piece? Is it the same if you're doing a TV movie?
Well, it depends what you're hired as. If you're hired as a producer, which I was in about half of those movies, you're there from day one. You're there from, you know, the raw newspaper article, for example, in the case of a Patty Duke Aston movie that I did that was based on a true story. Or you are hired, well, in the case of Anna Quinlan, I was hired right after the book was optioned, and we had nothing but the book and me, and the executive producer, who is Jerry Abrams. In that case, Jerry and I met, we had breakfast, we talked about the concept of the show, and of course I said I didn't want to do it and I didn't want to do it. And he said, no, you have to do it, you're right for this. And eventually I did it. There's always a defensive thing because you know you're probably getting into a year of conflict and fighting and anguish as the writer.
Well, I didn't think it was going to go smoothly.
No, it doesn't.
We hear a lot of stories from authors who come to the store, not generally talking about TV, but more about, you know, feature movies, about how difficult it is for them to see their scripts either getting butchered or not, the book it's not turning out the way the book did, et cetera, et cetera. I didn't know, are television movies, are they shorter, and are you more faithful perhaps to the writer's initial book?
I think it depends on who's doing the adaptation. In the case of Anna and me, we were totally in sync, and I brought elements to the film that were not in the book, such as the cop's pursuit of her. In the book, it's all first person. It's an internal story.
Right.
You never see what he's doing. Now on film, you need to see that. You need to have the action. She was totally cool with that. She said, you know what you're doing, so go and do it. And I think she was very pleased with the final movie.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, obviously, that's one of the difficulties. I know Tony Hillerman's book, for example, the one that, you know, never really made it out, was very difficult to turn into a movie because so much of what Tony writes is internal. You know, somebody standing out there looking at the New Mexico landscape. I think Elmore Leonard, someone like him who's writing action and dialogue, you know, has to be a lot simpler to make a movie out of, and it doesn't always work when you've got an internal novel. At least Anna's did have, even though it was internal, there was still a lot of action potential.
It was a good story.
Yeah.
It was a good story. That's what you need.
So hopefully, you know, the author can understand that it's a different medium, and you've got to make, you know, got to make that adjustment.